All right, welcome everybody to the 16.3 BrosephTech meta prediction. I'm gonna go over what I think as of right now, before the patch drops, what the next patch will probably look like, or like what I think will be good. This is my overall meta tier list that I spent the last few hours working on. Columns on the left show what tier I expect certain comps to be in. I have their approximated average placement at the pro level. Note that some comps do better in the pro level and some comps do better at lower elo. For example, Ixtal reroll I think performs at a 5.0 level if you look at Emerald or lower, but it does very well at the pro level, so I put it as one of the best comps in the game. I want to go over some of the comps that had the biggest changes from this patch, some new comps that you might want to go back to playing. So for Ixtal, there are some major changes to the quests. The small reroll quest is easier to complete. The medium reroll quest and hard reroll quests are all easier to complete, and those all give a fair amount of shard rewards, and the fact that they're a lot better this patch means that that comp can stack up sun shards much faster now compared to before. This is the normal board that you go for on 6. Usually when you can unlock the Nidalee, you try to do it on 3-7, hopefully, with 2 copies of Nico on the board. Typically you can replace the Bard or the Orianna. If you happen to get the 6th Nico later than that, you can probably still unlock the Nidalee by just replacing Orianna for a round. It's not the greatest solution, but it's still fine. I expect this board to be very good. Nidalee is very strong. Bard 3 is very strong. Milio is okay, and Nico is still a strong tank. So if you're looking for a strong reroll comp to play on the next patch, this is probably one that will be good. I would recommend taking heavy econ early and even mid game with this. It's probably best from Too Much Value or Prismatic Ticket or Honor Roll, or those are the augments that are best with this, I should say. Next, the next big set of changes are to Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is already a fairly good comp, but in the next patch you should expect to see Kai'Sa better, I'd imagine. Her unlock is at level 7 now rather than level 8, which means on average you get Kai'Sa 2 turns earlier than before. They've also nerfed her 1-star version in compensation, but I expect her to still be on average better in the next patch. On level 7, you'll be able to play a board like this, Kai'Sa and Kog'Maw, and your 3-5 or mostly 3-6 and 4-1 should be stronger than before. You'll usually have the Rift Herald, you'll usually have Cho'Gath, and this will be the rest of your board. You're looking to upgrade this board a little bit more on level 8. This is by no means your final board, but this is a fairly strong board that you can play on 7 that you should have reasonably consistently. This is the max cap version of this board, so you try to get any AP items onto Ziggs. AD items can end up on Kai'Sa. You're gonna have Shyvana, Singe, Swain, and Rift Herald as your main tanks on the board. If it is easier to go 9 on next patch, or if it's easy enough to go 9 on the next patch, this will be a fairly standard version of the comp that you'll play. Note that you always have the option of holding some more of the Void units and going for Baron on level 10 if you get a lot of econ. I will add one note, which is they've also nerfed the amount of gold it takes to get to level 9. So it will be a little bit harder to level to 9 and acquire Ziggs on the next patch. So be careful about that. That said, this is still mostly a level 8 comp, and this is just simply the cap. So the fact that you get Kai'Sa and save more HP from having it earlier is definitely a plus. One of the last big changes I'm going to mention here are to Asol. The text has changed kind of dramatically on several portions of the comp, but the main thing you should know is Asol is just much stronger now. He truly feels like the power of a 7 cost, and the fact that he feels like a 7 cost and you can acquire him as early as 3-5 means that he is going to be fairly powerful. He's also a 7 cost that scales into the game, so if your spot is good enough to be able to survive through stage 4, you often can run away with the game and win if he's strong enough and there's not enough strong boards to beat you down. So this is what you'll usually try to run on level 6 or 7, usually level 7, building up your board. You want to play a variety of Targons on the board to stack your Asol. You probably want to get him to like 300 to 400 stacks before you try to shift off the board and get to a board that is stronger but doesn't run as many Targons, because the more Targons you run on the board, the faster he is able to stack. So in the end game, you're trying to get to a board that looks more like this. You run a package that's very similar to the old Diana boards, with Asol as your main carry, Seraphine, Azir, the Nico Vi package, 1 more Shurima, 2 Juggernauts with Swain, and to run Piltover as well as Arcanist to buff your whole board. This board is very good. I think if you can get to a board this strong, it is very hard to win the game or beat this board. I've seen 1-star Asol win on this board before with fairly strong common augments. So be wary. If you have a lot of gold, like through Advanced Loan or maybe even Prismatic Ticket, you can try to go 7, unlock the Asol as quickly as you can by just rolling on 7 for Taric as well as Leona 2, and then seeing where it goes from there. Last big change is to Bilgewater, and I think this is really relevant to how you play differently on the next patch compared to this one. Resource generation in Bilgewater has been nerfed across the board. I would expect the comp to be much worse, and I would also expect most comps to perform slightly better this patch because the Bilge comp is much worse. So you notice that there are a lot of middling tier, if not higher tier comps that have become better as a result of Bilge becoming worse. So Sona has gone up in tier. I believe Void Slayers has gone up in tier. It's the Void comp that runs Rift Herald and no Bilgewater, but runs 4 Void instead. A variety of other comps have seen like minor buffs and improved minorly in terms of where I place them. So if you want to try any of the other S or A tier comps, I'd recommend you do it on the first day tomorrow. I'd be pretty surprised if any of them performed spectacularly badly. Perhaps Warwick and Brom Seraphine maybe don't live up to the hype, but I would at least try them out and see how they do. Here are the rest of the boards for Void Slayers, Warwick, and Brom Sera. Thanks for tuning in, best of luck on the early patch climb, and subscribe for more tech as we will be releasing early meta playbook over the weekend, as well as competitive strategies as the meta stabilizes.